Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chloe Luke from the Department of EIE. It is my great honor to be the MC today. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the Knowledge and Exploration Talk Series organized by the Student Affairs Office. This talk series aims to broaden students' horizon beyond the selected academic field. We'll invite guest speakers from different areas to share the expertise areas that you want to know more about but may not have a chance to study in your studying program. For example, students majoring in sciences may want to know more about culture, design, or history, while students studying in arts may want to know more about artificial intelligence, robot, or other technological and scientific concepts and developments. These talks are going to be held in the forthcoming semesters, with a focus on specific areas and their applications. It is a great honor to have Professor Otto Lin as our speaker today. Professor Lin is a senior advisor to the President, Honorary Professor of Industrial and Systems Engineering at PolyU. He was educated in the mainland, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the States, and received PhD at Columbia University. His professional career spans over government, private industries, and tertiary education, with major milestones as President of Industrial Technology Research Institute in Taiwan, Dean of School of Engineering in Tsinghua, Vice President for Research and Development of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, President of China Nansha Technology Enterprises, and at many R&D capacities in the DuPont Company in USA. He is a member of the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Science, Hong Kong Academy of Engineering Science, recipient of the Award in Technology from the Third World Academy of Sciences, among others. In addition, he is serving as the Director of Terra Foundation for Culture and Education. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Otto Lin to deliver a talk on Confucius on entrepreneurship. Professor Lin, please.
Thank you for your introduction. Professor Yong, Professor Mok, and Professor James Lee, colleagues, friends in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, Singapore, USA, and most of all, fellow students of PolyU. This talk is dedicated to our students in the university. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased for the opportunity to talk about Kongzi and entrepreneurship. If the subject seems a little strange to you, I'm sure you will see many more surprises as we go along. Here, I'd like to see the slides. First, it's about Kongzi's name. In this slide, you see, of course, Kong is his family name. Chu is the given name. And he also has a zi called Zhongli. His students call him Fuzi, which is very popular. And other people call him Kongzi or Kongfuzi with respect. This all went well until 16th century, when the Jesuit, the Catholic missionary, came to China. They learned of Kongzi and found the need to communicate about him. So they Latinized his name, wrote it as Confucius. It is in this fourth one here. And of course, they use the V to change for the U's here. Okay. Another 100 years or so, as the English become more popular in becoming a world language, some scholars create the name Confucius. The name sounds a constant confusion to me and to many, but of course, no one asked Confucius' consent for these translations. However, knowing how particular he was with names, he said, 必也正名乎，名不正则言不顺. We know he is very particular about names. I think he will not be happy about his translation of Confucius. So in this talk, I shall write and say his name Confucius according to Pinyin system. I hope you allow me to give our foremost teacher some justice with proper respect. Yeah. Now, do I really want to associate Confucius with entrepreneurship? Yes, I do. Most people think of entrepreneurs as someone who opens a company and makes loads of money. Actually, this is simply a very limited view of entrepreneurship. Let's see what Steve Jobs, the Apple founder, has said about entrepreneurs. He said Steve Jobs in his final days, about to die, actually, in his sit back, and he talked to his biographer. He said, "I hate it when people call themselves entrepreneurs, when they are really trying to do is launch a startup and then sell or go public, so they can cash in and move on. They are unwilling to do the work that takes to build something real, a real company, which is the hardest work in business. That's how you really make a contribution and add to the legacy of those who went before." Of course, he was talking about business. He said, you build something, you build a company that will stand for something of a generation or two from now. That's what Walt Disney did, and Hewlett and Packard and people who built Intel. They create a company to last, not just to make money. That's what I want Apple to be. So you can see here, really, the profile of an entrepreneur, I think, is one who has a vision of adding value to the society and is willing to overcome hardships and at times risks to implement the ideal and make lasting impacts for the benefit of the mankind. I think this is probably a broad definition of entrepreneur. Of course, you don't really have to check all the boxes of vision and risk and hardship and everything, but I think it describes in certain aspect what an entrepreneur should look like. And I think here's some example. James Watt, who invented the steam engine, Thomas Edison, Orville and Curtis Wright, Henry Ford, Hewlett and Packard, Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, himself. I think all these names are familiar to you. These people are really using something that have the idea that they have and work hard to build something lasting impact for the society. So it fits the Steve Jobs' own expectation. However, there are other entrepreneurs like Li Bing Fuzi. The team, the father and son team worked on the built a dam about 2,000 years ago. Actually, 2,200 years ago, and to benefit the people and benefit for people of hundreds and millions of people in Sichuan and downstream. And the dam is still working today. And it was not known that they have made, the father and son team has made an extra ounce of gold for themselves. The Apollo 11 teams, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, they took enormous personal risk and danger in their efforts to open up a new era for the mankind. Jonas Salk, who in the 1950s developed polio vaccines, did not seek patent, did not go for patents or seek any commercial benefits, because he thinks that his mission is to quickly implement a national vaccination program to save people from the disease. That's Salk. Tim Berners-Lee, the person who invented World Wide Web, not too long ago, he's still alive. He did not file for patent because he was convinced that he had developed a novel and better means of communication. He wants people in the world to use it freely and for the society to move forward with this new technology. Can you imagine if he charged 101 cent every time one gets on the web? I think he would be a zillionaire today. Confucius certainly is a pioneer in this league. What he has decided to do was to save the common people from the misery of corrupted governments and an unjust social system, and he worked very hard at that. Without success in politics, he retreated later to another business model, which is education. And we'll see what kind of person he really was. I think I have two snapshots that I like very much, which show Confucius in a relatively carefree moment. One is that he was passed by Taishan. And they heard a woman crying very sadly at the home. He stopped the carriage and asked his student Zilu to inquire at it, saying that you appear to be in a deep sorrow, madam. The woman said, yes, indeed, my father-in-law was killed by a tiger some time ago. And then the same happened to my husband. And now my son was also killed. Confucius asked, why don't you move to another place? This woman said, but here at least was not ruled by a tyrant. So Confucius said to the students, he said, you should all take note of this. Tyranny is more fearful than tiger. So that's what he says. What he really says is that people would rather suffer death at the mouth of a tiger than live under the cruel and oppressive government. I think this is a profound and striking statement of tyranny that I think anyone ever gave it. So another snapshot is when he was doing a field study with his student. And Yuan Yan, actually, Confucius with Yan Yan and Zilu on his side, he said, tell me about what you value the most in life. And Zilu answered, she said, I like to travel with horses and carriages, 喜欢车马, and wear fine clothes and 衣轻裘. I like to have friends to share this, to shreds with no regrets. That's Zilu, his bio. Yuan Yan answered, he said, I wish I'll never brag about my merit or belabor on my efforts. That's Yuan Yan. Zilu said, my teacher, what do you like the most in life? Confucius said, I shall like to give old people comfort and security, friends, trust and respect, and the youth, empathy and nurture. 老者安之，朋友信之，少者怀之. So this is really Confucius' value in life. So I think what we can tell is that Confucius' objective in life is this. He wants to build a nation and a society that provides good livelihood, the rule of law, social justice, mutual respect, harmony, and prosperity for all people. Well, I'm trying to use my current words. And to assure the government will follow people's wishes and serve with humility and diligence at people's wish. 天听自我明听. If the people did not go along with him, then he should go. The government to pursue its goal with peaceful policy and civil instruments. Military is only used as a last resort. He did not want war, because every time it's war, the people dies and livelihood is lost. And he also wanted to uphold the supreme leadership of the reign of the King Zhou in China. 他希望周天子 everybody still obey to Zhou Tianzi. I mean, this is his, his objective. And to maintain that the larger and stronger countries shall respect and assist the weak and the small ones. And preserve the cultures and heritage continue to exist and prosper. This is a very noble objective in his life. In other words, 兴灭国，兴灭继绝。Those those country that has extinguished, defeated. He want to restore them. They want to give people a better life and restore the culture and heritage. Continue for even those small countries that has been defeated. So I think this is Confucius' objective in life. So of course his utopia is the 大同社会. We can go through all his teachings and the writings and so on. And his idea is that when this ideal is implemented, the nation belongs to all the people. 天下为公. The nation will elect virtues and talent and empower them to run the country. 选贤与能. Upholding trust and harmony is the excellence in all endeavors. 讲信修睦. This is what you said. People will treat not only their parents as parents and their sons as sons, but extend equally to other people. 所以不止亲戚亲，不独子其子。And the old age shall receive care for rest, the adults opportunity to fulfill their potential, and the youth a home to grow up. This is his social policy. Okay, you can see. The widow, 鳏寡孤独废疾. The widow, the widower, the orphan, the deserted, the disabled, the diseased. 鳏寡废独废疾者 have their place of care and comfort. The men all have jobs. Sorry, I think he did not know about women that time, but women all have a home. 男有分，女有归. Goods shall not be discarded on the open field, but need not be hidden inside in whole house. So this is the earliest environmental policy. If you have waste, do not just put it laid outside, discard it outside. You do not keep it in your own house. You can exchange, you can reuse, you can recycle. That's what he really means here. So this is environmental policy. Talents shall not be kept inside the body, but need not be for personal gain. You can do social work. You can volunteer to work in the school, in the hospital, in many other places that need your talents. But you do not need to see all the time, all the ways to seek your personal gain. So that, I think, is policy back at that time, 2,000 years ago. There will be no conspiracy, no room for thief, beggar, looters, or rioter. And there will be no need to lock the outside door. This is his ideal of 大同社会. So I think this is Confucius tried to build a society like that. He did not talk about any specific 主义 or policies or anything, but this is his ideal. So I think I put a star on this so that you can see these are the key elements of Confucius' theory. So I think this is the 礼运大同篇. For those who know the Chinese, I'm sure you're familiar with that. And actually now we can look back as Confucius, in the life of Confucius as an entrepreneur. He was born in 551 BC in Luguo, and he started civil service internship very early, in the age 18, while his father worked for the government at the time. And he started private teaching, nurture his reputation, and broaden social scholarly contacts a lot of people in the area knows about him, heard of his name, and come to him. And he expanded private education. He found that that is a very good way of not so much of making a living, but to propagate his idea and to teach the young students. And then in age 35, he served as consultant in politics. Consulting to many 士族, 世家, many noble families and the kings. But actually, he was appointed as Minister of Judiciary in Luguo when he was 51 to 55. And he was found a very good minister. He has done a lot. He was one of the best ministers that ever found. But because he was so good, he was aroused some jealousies and attack from other noble families. So he was exiled at age 55 in Luguo. And he engaged in more teaching in neighboring countries, 魏国、曹、宋、郑、陈、蔡、越、楚等等. Okay, and at age 70, he returned to Luguo. So he died at age 73. He died 479 BC. I just want to put a note here that about the time he died, Socrates was born in Greece. So actually, he was, he was earlier than Socrates for about 100 years. So you see, he also, all his philosophy and his talk and his teaching, he only have a chance to work in the government as a minister where he can really, really implement his idea, only have 5 years time. So it's a very short period of time. But if you think about most of famous persons, statesmen, they do not get a very long time to serve the country. So I think 5 years is pretty good, but already he established a good example. So, so what is his 管理理念, his governance? He felt that one should focus on self, and then when you do yourself very well, being a good person, then you can make sure your family is a good family, and then your families you have run a good family, then you can participate in running in managing the nation. Of course, the Guo that we now talk about today was a very small size area in Kongzi's time. In Kongzi's time, when Zhou Tianzi was, when he came to power, and he has assigned different areas to different people, to his families, and also to different people that make contribution to Zhou Tianzi. So there are about 300 some countries in China. Luguo, Zhengguo, Qiguo, these are one of them. Luguo is a very small part of the Shandong Shen today. So, it's centered on Qufu in Jinan. And it was I would say, what we call the Jinan Shi today is probably where Luguo it was today. So, so from family to nation to Guo, 修身到齐家到治国, it's not a big jump. It is a reasonable jump, but it's not a big jump. But then, of course, then you can 治天下, then you can participate in the multi countries business and so on. That's just 理念. You have to do it from yourself first, okay? And Jia and family, and then the Guo, and then the 天下. And he said so 修身 self-discipline is a very important part of Confucius' 理念. For that, the first thing to do is engage in research. Confucius talk about research. He said, one will get new knowledge. You can only obtain new knowledge going through research. So this is a scientist at heart, at that time, you have to do research. And then once you do research, you gain knowledge, you gain new knowledge, okay? Once you have knowledge, you know a lot about new things, then you recognize that how much more there is to learn, and how little you are that you have already learned. 是学而后知不足. So you make you humble, that you learn humility, and I think humility is one of the major things for people to work in the real professional field, any professional field. And afterward, then you can, with that, then you can focus on priority. So this is Kongzi's chosen his steps to research, get knowledge, and then learn humility, and other characteristics, and then focus on priority in life, and go do it. So this is his way of doing things. And I think his 政治理念 is many, and I cannot go through all of this. But I just want to say that 信, 至上, these are the important part of Confucius that has to do with entrepreneurship. 己所不欲，勿施于人。君子喻于义，小人喻于利。博学审问，慎思明辨，笃行. These several subjects are very much related to entrepreneurship, which is what I'm going to say, in the following half hours. And we don't have time to do all of this, but I'm just trying to focus at least on two. One is 信, the other is 君子喻于义，小人喻于利. Okay. So this is just a translation of what I just talked about: trust and benevolence, plan ahead and avoid crisis nearby, and then do not do unto others what you do want others to do unto you. Work hard and strive for excellence, motivating people according to his need or want, because people are different. And steps to excellence. He showed these different steps. Okay, I think well, let's talk about this. And this is from a self, 他自己身本身 to 家 to 国 and to the world. So it is all this philosophy, although we talk about politics, but very much you can apply into a corporation, particularly the area that I highlighted in red. So Confucius' strategy in trying to implement his idea is that he tried to persuade the kings of the kingdom of the state to be guided by the will and wishes of the people, to behave as moral and ethical leaders, and to require officials to treat the common people as king of the family. 爱民如子. I mean, this is strategy. He did not want to overthrow the country. He wanted to try to persuade the kings, to learn this, to do this, and persuading the minister and the officials that they should work diligently with high integrity and live in a strict lifestyle. And he went cultivating, knowing these are pretty difficult to do. I think his strategy, today we're looking back, I think his strategy is pretty, not very timely, not so to speak. At least we can speak that. But he wanted to cultivate the common people through education so that they can become a person of integrity, empathy, virtuous, and the result to strive for excellence. He recognized that people are not born equal, really. You have different people, with different instinct, different ability. But people can improve themselves through education. So education is something that he will talk about. And he wants to motivate his students and followers to promote the concept of trust, benevolence, peace, and harmony. And whenever the opportunity arises, the students should serve the country with honor and dignity. So that's what he, in his education, that's what he says. So I sum up the important concepts of Confucius that relate to entrepreneurship. One is the mission. You have to have the entrepreneurs have to have a mission, sense of mission, and you need to want to create value. The value is for the benefit of the society. It's not a selfish goal. Okay. Then secondly, the trust. You have trust in the soft power. You have to build up soft power. You have to be show respect to people. People should be treated as individuals. And I think this will be showing when we talk about business plan, how to write business plan. And also we show how to manage in a company, manage people that that work with you. You have to motivate people according to individual needs and on. And the quality you always want to strive for excellence. You will not be satisfied with just so-so quality. You want to talk about excellent quality, and you want to apply methodologies with persistence. 止于至上. Leadership should be a role model for the team. These are very much what we tell the entrepreneurs today, that you should be doing this. There are of course others in the technology side, but for the soft side, these are all mostly are these soft powers. You have to focus on this, and perseverance, strategy, of course. Well, I think now we talk about some of these characteristics. The first one I want to comment is 信, is trust. And actually, 子贡问政, this is a very important and a very short entry in 论语, in the Analects. Basically, what it says is that 子贡 asks about national governance. 子贡问政, 子曰, 诸食诸兵民信之矣. Give them sufficient food, sufficient arms to protect them, and you get the trust of the people. 子贡 is a very good student. He did not settle with anything that just the professor told him. He wanted to quit the professor to do subtraction. He said, if forced to drop one, which among three should first go? Okay. And then Kongzi said, arms. If you have a national budget, the budgets, you have problem with the budget, then you can cut down on the budget on the arms. Zigong said, if forced to drop another, which then go? I cannot afford two. So what should I do with the next? Kongzi said, food. He said, then 皆有死, death is inevitable, but the state cannot stand without trust of the people. I think I like all of you to think about this. The food and arms, obviously this is a hard power. This is 富国强兵. Sufficient food has to do economy, sufficient arms has to do with military. You want to build up this for your country, right? 富国强兵. 民信, trust of the people, is a soft power. And Kongzi said, well, soft power, you should never give up trust, because that is absolutely the red line of governance. I think this is really very remarkable to me, that at that time he talked about 信, trust. And actually, the word 信 in Chinese has many meanings. It's 信任, it's 信用, it's 信赖, 信守, 信仰. Trust, credibility, dependability, responsibility, and faith. Okay, and I think we all lump this together. But the word 信 convey all these features in here. And actually, 信 is not just a soft power; it is also an element of the hard power. When you're talking about economies, you need credibility. You need to go to the entrepreneur, anybody who go to the bank for a loan, to buy your equipment, buy your everything. They will talk about look at your credit, whether and how credible you are. So this is a soft power become a hard power. We're always talking about cost of money, because your credibility is good, then the interest rate is slower. The smaller the interest, then you're easier, you get the money. So the better you'll be able to build up your economy. And the contract and quality assurance, these are all coming to economic power. But trust A soft power attribute is also very important for military power. In any troops, any military, they're talking about mission. Why are you doing this? Why are you fighting? Why are you losing your life? You have to have a mission, a clear mission that can convince the people that work with you. And they have to trust you that this is the right mission to do. The leadership to have that trust. The discipline you have that trust. Otherwise, if there's no trust, how can you ask the soldier that, well, there's it's a lot of bombard the enemy, there's very firepower there, but I want you to run through those firepower and go to capture the other mountaintops. How would you want to do that? So they have to have trust, they have to have discipline in there, and the execution of the plan. Again, trust is a very important key area. So I think this is soft trust itself is trust itself is a soft power, but it's also important as a hard power attribute. I think some of you, probably none of you, will recognize this, but this is the currency banknote, 1948, 47, 48 in China. It's published by 中央银行. The 金元券 is called 金元券. The government collect all the golds back to the central government, and then give them a paper note and say this is 10万元 worth for so much, and this 500万元 worth about 50 times more than the other, and they all are guaranteed by some goal. Okay, but within a year's time, the 500万元, the $5 million coupon, the banknote, become worthless, become the same as the 10万元. I remember when the New Year's time, I was given a 红包 with the 10万元. I was so much money. I was so happy in my life. But the next day, I can take the 10万元 and go and cannot buy a lollipop. What is that? So that's how the situation is. Because of the government, the currency situation, a lot of people lost job, a lot of factory was closed, and people lost job. So people has no trust with the government. That was contributed to why Chiang Kai-shek's government has to retreat from the mainland. I think this is very important. And you're looking back in the history, in China, there are many dynasty changes because of famine or war, but you come to the end of that. It's not the war or the famine itself. It's the loss of trust of the people with the king, with the ruler, with the government. Okay. Otherwise, you cannot tighten the belt. You cannot fight with bare hand. You see, when the Japanese came to invasion of China in the early 1930s, people fight with their bare hands. People tighten the belt, but we win. However, when after the victory of the Second World War, the government collapsed because they lost trust. Well, I think this is a familiar face. He was inaugurated as the president of the United States on January 20, 2017. And he said, looking at the crowd that was gathering on the Capitol Hill, he said, I have the biggest crowds, believe me, I have the biggest crowd. And it turns out that there are some helicopters of National Service that was around. And it turns out, the picture shows that actually the crowd was a very small one. And then he was so mad, he said, well, take all those pictures off the websites. And then he continued to brag about he was the most beloved president, and the most people come to celebrate with him on that day. So I think trust with people went downhill from day one. That's a very small thing, but he cared about it and he bragged about it, and it's lie. So I think that's the problem with Trump. Another important word of Confucius is 君子喻义,小人喻义利. In translation is that the elites can be reasoned with a vision and ideal, while the commoners with cost and benefit. Now, this is a very controversial quote because people will think that Confucius tried to stereotype people into the elites or the commoners. Actually, Confucius is not like that. Confucius is just saying that people are different. When you have a meeting with the people of elite, they have the opportunity to get educated, then you can talk to them with ideas and mission and so on. But if you talk to another group of people, did not have the opportunity to be enlightened, then you need to talk about costs and benefits. Okay, that's how people is. So I think this reflects on the business, on writing a business plan and the motivation theories in management. You know, there are different composition of people. Here you can see in the first group,孔子does not mean the policeman is more elite than the priest or a cook or a pilot. They make no distinction of professions or job you do. The judge is no holier than the cook or pilot or worker. It's not like that. It's not even between the professions. It's even inside the profession. There are good journalists, there are elite journalists, and there are common journalists. There are very good journalists and there are bad journalists. You know, there are good engineer and bad engineer, but of course, probably you do not produce bad engineers. But you know, so yeah, he is saying that in one person, in our own nature, sometimes we think about the good side, sometimes we think about the other side. And this is in the human nature, okay? So we say, well, people are different, and with the individual, you know, if the 君子, those people are with enlightened, being educated, and there are people they call common person, 小人, but those are there are different types. You know, one type of people they talk about righteousness, mission, idealistic. They focus on soft attributes and soft powers. The other person talk about benefits and profits and loss and dollars and cents. You know, these are things like this. But the true people, everybody, is in the middle. They have the characteristics of both sides. Okay, that I think, and you have to find out. So I think in real life, here's a real life situation for driving safety. You know, everybody drives here, okay? When you drive, you say, speeding is harmful to life and health. Therefore, I should drive carefully. I should observe the speed limit, okay? But on the other hand, you know that if you are overspeed, will be ticketed and fined. So when you are making a decision that you're looking at the speed limit and your odometer there, the speed limit there, what's the most important to you? Okay, I think both this come to play, but perhaps maybe you know you're more concerned with the ticket that you might get. All right. In the students' work, we're saying that students should work hard, study hard, and get good GPA because it's a responsibility of the student. And some say, well, if you study hard and get good GPA, you'll probably get an award. Okay? Now, if you get an award from the university, you should not say, no, I'm sorry, I refuse this award because study hard is my responsibility. So you know, there's no need for you. It does not make you any lower when you get an award or get a scholarship. Okay, so this come in play in our real life. So Confucius, in a typical business plan, you write a vision, you have a business objective, and then you talk about customer and profile, market profile, competitive analysis, solution, the offer, and then how to manufacture the technology system that you are using, the sales and distribution, how are you going to make distribution and sell, and make the investment needed, and your financial analysis, the cash flow, the burn rate, and everything. And then you have an exit plan. How are you going to exit and return to your investor? But then, of course, you want to talk about the key team members and skill set and the environmental sustainability of the whole thing. So you see, there are people who are more on the idealistic side. They will be like angel investor. They'll be looking at your vision and looking at your business objective, and they probably will see your team. Who are your team members? That's it. Okay, but most people will look at the profile, the analysis, and the offer, and how you manufacture, where your technology coming from, and how do you going to make sales, and financial analysis, and so on, and exit plan. It does not mean that those people are bad and the angel investors are good. It does not mean that. It's just that people are different, and their job, their nature, they have to looking at different focus on different areas. So this is business plan. If you want a good business plan, you have to cover all this area. And if you now we're talking about in the management area, in the Western management theory, and there are X, Y, Z leaders. Okay, X leaders are autocratic leaders who think employees are lazy. Employees are always trying to take advantage of the company. Okay, so I have to enforce my rules, enforce my laws, And there are other leaders who think people are good. People always want to contribute. So I have to make an environment so that they can contribute. So these are called theory X and theory Y. And then the theory Z is a leader who balance these two and trying to build teams. And of course, there's called theory YL, it's the laissez-faire leader. He just let you go. It does not care what you do. So I think these are the major references. In Confucius theory, that you have the one, you have the two, and the three, but actually these three will merge together. They'll merge together for the whole person. So in a whole organization, Abraham Maslow, talking about the needs of people. He said that there are 5 levels of needs: physiological needs, safety needs, love and belongings needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. So you have to look at the needs and how to motivate them accordingly. So the Sunday physiology need is like oxygen, water, and food. The highest level, then the next level is security, stability, and so on. And the fourth level is esteem, self-respect, and esteem for others. And then, of course, the self-actualization is the highest level, that you want to do this and to fulfill your capability. And so there's a needs, there's behavior, and there's a performance. And everybody is different. If you look at all these people there, I think pretty much you can tell they are different people and they have needs. And our very famous person here, he was very active in one time, he was active in promoting the North-South Korea to end the war. And they will say, well, North Korea are vowed to end the war. And his interest is, well, okay. So what, right? So I think these people has think about his innovation. Well, I think this is used by Steve Jobs as well. Steve Jobs was known as a good manager, but Steve Jobs did not really talk about the 3 lower level needs. He talked about the middle and the upper level. He created a distorted version, which is not real, but he will tell the people that you can do it. You can do it. People will take a year to build up this thing, but you take 1 month. You can do it. So it's a distorted view. People are saying this. And he always says that the journey is the reward. you are doing this, it's the reward by yourself. And you ask people to come to say, we want to change the world and inventing the future. So I think people, and therefore Apple's built A teams, good teams, but also there are people who was very unhappy about Steve Jobs, and he said he was cruel, and he always say bad mouthing people. He say, 4-letter words all the time. So I think he's not being, good and bad here. So I don't have time to go about all this, but Kongzi, I think there's one other thing here is that one time, Zigong asked him, he said, is there one word that I can practice for the entire life? Just basically universal value. Kongzi said, that would be Su. Su. Like a Su. Do not do unto others or do what you do not want others to do to you. Okay, I think this is kind of obvious here. But you see, his value is not democracy, freedom, law, or anything. He just Su. And I have a corollary to that is that do not impose something on others, even if you like it yourself. Like, Steve Jobs is doing, and bad-mouthing people and so on. So I think it creates a lot of problems. So I think we have to remember Su Dao. So as a part for an entrepreneur. Because of time, I think I'm going to stop just on the 2 slides. He also talk about 大学之道在明明的在亲民在止于之上 stop only at the utmost perfection. And he suggests how to do it. 博学审问慎思明辨笃行 to study broadly, to inquire judiciously, to think carefully, and to differentiate clearly, to implement faithfully. This is the method. You thought about this is just social. Actually, a lot of quality management theories, Deming cycles, Toyota production system, advanced system like 5S, Six Sigma, and so on, and lean technology are all based on a system like this. So I think these are very useful for entrepreneurs to think about. And Confucius traveled a lot because after he was 55, he traveled from Luguo, Shifu, and then to Caiguo, to Song, and then to Zheng, and then to Chu, and then come back to Qi, to Wei, and then also to Qi. So he knew that he could not find a place to use this theory. So he engaged in students, he engaged in education. And I think many of the theories that you talk about education, like self-financing, like non-discriminatory education, and personalized education, outcome-based education, these are the kind of things he talk about. So Confucius, everything I think although his aim is politics, and he aimed very big, but he end up he aimed every big, but his vision was derived from the passion for people and the firm belief that his view on governance will bring lasting security and prosperity to people. His endeavor has repeatedly met with resistance and personal peril at times. Yes, I think I know time is up, but let me just finish this. His theory is embracing people, different needs of aspiration has been considered as foundation of governance of corporation, organization, and nations. Even today, I think it is believed to be the first theory of democracy or people-based 民本 national governance in China as well as the world. With regard to technology entrepreneurship, he has highlighted the soft power attributes that we just talked about. I think this is the last slide. His failure in bringing political theory to practice can be attributed to the business plan, relying on key players who had contradictory self-interest. The kings and the ministers, they don't have their different interests with him, and he is relying on them to implement his plan. So I think he's wrong. he failed to adjust his policy business model. And monarchy has been ingrained in China until 1911, when it was overturned by the National Revolution by Dr. Sun Yat-sen. So it was so difficult to achieve his goal in politics. So I think however, the popular private education is his plan B, and has demonstrated the model of non-discriminatory, personalized, outcome-based, self-financed situation is still valid today. He views students, not as students, but as future leaders and teachers to set role models. And he received well acclaim as the teacher of generations. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Now I think we can open for some.
Thank you, Professor Lin, for the interesting sharing. Please stay for the next session. The next coming up is a Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite Professor James Lee, Chair Professor and Yan'an Foundation Professor of Social Science, former Dean of School of Humanities and Social Science, the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, to act as the moderator. Professor James Lee will conduct the Q&A session online. Professor James Lee, please.
Thank you. So let's see, show of hands, or I believe there are also some prepared questions, right, that we can view. So right now, I don't have any, right, I don't see any hands. So perhaps we can turn to some of the prepared questions. So, let's see, yeah. So let's see, in the chat, Mr. or Ms. Yip asks, many successful entrepreneurs were, quote, in business well before they finished high school. Why is it important for them to finish the degree? Okay, that's a good question for Professor Lin. So, Professor Lin, do you have a response?
Well, I think yeah, indeed, many recent entrepreneurs did not even just finish high school, and not even high school. But I think it's important, the college education is important, so that you will learn, you'll be trained, you learn to build a network, you learn not only just the technology, you learn cultures, and your thought will be more mature, and you know how to communicate with people. You see, I think Steve Jobs, or we would say he's one of the very successful entrepreneur, but he, if you study his career, his success, he was, even though he has invented Apple I, II, in the Apple computer time, but in the first 10 years, he was very frustrated. He was fired by the Apple company, the company that he founded, because he has a very poor people skill, because he did not know how to work with people, how to build network. I think these are the kind of things that we are hoping that ones who get a good education in college will learn. So I think actually Steve Jobs learned by the hardware, by his hard way. It's fortunate that he has enough financial support during the 10 years that he left Apple, so that he learned enough lessons to that, and learned enough how to focus, and also learn enough how to respect people of different views and different needs, and to make him a success. So I think that's why it's important to finish college education if all possible.
Right, I think the President would also agree that also almost all Xiaoren really care about the degree, and so it's just the real world. Anna has a question, which is, what are the the different influences between Confucianism and Buddhism on Chinese business?
Well, I don't know much about Buddhism, certainly it is a very important part in the Chinese culture. Buddhism, there are similarities of Buddhism with Confucianism in the in way to treat people in school. If you don't want other people, do not do unto other people. If you don't want other people to do to you, in the universal value. And there in Buddhism, in being to be humility, to learn humility. I think these are pretty much the same as Confucius in this aspect, but they're quite different. They're quite different, and I do not know enough Buddhism to make an analysis for you. But I just mentioned that these are the commonalities there that are important to entrepreneurship in business and in business.
So, Mr. Zheng has a question. Thank you for your sharing. What are the difficulties in terms of applying Confucius entrepreneurship in Hong Kong nowadays?
Well, I think in Hong Kong today, I don't think we are practicing Confucianism entrepreneurship here. I think Hong Kong has a lot to learn. The players in Hong Kong, in the innovation system in Hong Kong, the government, the university, the institutions, and the business, I think they have different focus here. First of all, I think the government do not have a long view of like Confucius has, trying to. Oh, I might be wrong, but I think when Confucius tried to do all those things, he is looking a way to relieve people's social problem and economic problems, and he used that try to achieve this purpose. Now, but I think in Hong Kong, what we have been trying to do is to teach students or young people to make money, and so those people, the young students, they may not have enough social commitment that when they become rich, they need to help the underprivileged compatriots in the society. So I think this is we do not set higher goals. We do not set higher moral standards. I think this is one thing, and this is not just the student. I think the government did not pay enough attention for that, and the university, certainly university have a lot of pressure. The university have pressures in many ways. You have pressures in getting good students, pressure in getting good teachers, in pressure in getting the ends meet. So I think then, and also the pressures in the culture. There are in different cultures I can see even in the university in different cultures. So I think they're different, and the business, most of the business in Hong Kong, they are not used to making investment, long-term investment in entrepreneurship or R&D, because in the old times when you are in the business of doing trade, all you need to do is to become a bridge between the producers, manufacturers in China, and the client, the customer in in the western part of the world. So you do not have any much investment. They make the manufacturers make the investment to build the machine, the equipment, and the people, and those the people in the customer end pay for them, right? So if you want a typical Hong Kong businessman to take $100 million or $1 billion money and to build, to dedicate it to education, to training, to research, and to help students to do entrepreneurship or themselves to do entrepreneurship. In the company itself, you can also do entrepreneurship. They're not very familiar with that. I'm saying that I think situation has become better and better in this last several years. And I think there's an improvement in that. But by and large, people are still very much very conservative in that sense. So I think this is a difficult problem. In Confucius' view, Confucius built his theory based on and self and the family and the community. I don't think that is very well understood here also. So I think there are some differences in there. I'm just saying a number of on the peripherals.
So thank you, Professor Lin. Tang Guifang asks, what are the keys to finding the right partners to grow a business? So do you have advice on how you find the right partners?
Well, I consider myself an entrepreneur in the sense that I set myself high goals, although maybe too high, but I set myself high goals, and I try to help people to set high goals, and I try to help people to in their work to achieve the goals. In my work in my past 40 years time, that's what I do. And I not only some of them are, you might say, nonprofit in the social entrepreneur sense, but some are making some companies turn out to be pretty well. I think the record will show that. But I am not a dedicated economic or technology-wise entrepreneur in myself, because I do not use that as a yardstick for my own accomplishment. I like to judge myself, my accomplishment, as how much I can communicate with the young people. I can help the young people. I can motivate them to do their work. I can whether in what I can help their career development. This is what I do. So teaching is what I really wanted to do.
So Tang Guifang also asks, what do you think are the keys to finding the right partners to grow a business? So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to find partners, what are the key things you would recommend on how to find the right partner?
Yeah, I think you are referring, James, are you referring to Gary's?
No, above Tang Guifang from 132. Two questions before Gary.
Well, I cannot hear too well, but if you are referring to Gary's.
No, above Gary.
No. Yeah,
okay.
Gary. So you say it again, please.
So what are the keys on finding the right partners to grow a business? So if you want to find partners to grow your business, how would you find them? What criteria would you use, and what process would you use to find the right partner?
Yeah. Well, finding targets certainly is very difficult, and I think this will require a very good understanding of the market situation and your own ability, whether you can find that niche to set the target, and whether what value can you bring what value can you bring to for the markets to maximize the value. So you need to have a good understanding of the outside of the external environment, and you also need to understand your own ability, and limitation as well. So I think this is we're talking about the side that we can see, but actually there are other factors that cannot be clearly specified. That is timing issue. The timing issue is I think is everyone's guess. For example, you talk about Steve Jobs. Before Steve Jobs put out iPhone, iPhone, or smartphone or better phones or mobile phones has been put out by Motorola's, Nokia's, and BlackBerry. Those people. But they do not. They're pretty successful. But when iPhone come out, basically those are being wiped out by iPhone. If you try to analyze the situation, you're saying that one of the advantage of the Steve Jobs to Steve Jobs is that the Nokia, the Motorola's, the BlackBerries have already fostered an environment, has already made the mobile phone familiar to the society, familiar to the user. So when they come out with a better one, with one that can do very well, internet, can do music, can do pictures, can do movies. These are the features, are the values that none of the previous ones can provide. So I think that has contributed to success. But if Steve Jobs were to put out an iPhone 5 years earlier, I would say it would be too tough for the society to accept that. So the timing is very important here. And of course, in setting the target, Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs has to make a very important decision. He said, our company will no longer be called Apple Computer after iPhone. We'll call just Apple Company. So I think it's now Apple. Because previously, people use personal computer. Apple Computer Company, you're trying to use the computer to suit people's needs and to make the computer to be very helpful to everybody. Yes, it is. It has been demonstrated that it is true, but it cannot be everyone has a PC with him all the time. You need to have a PC which is smaller, that you can put in the pocket and can do much more than the PC. You can play music, you can do emails, you can communicate, you can do all the many of the users. If nowadays if you go to you're sitting on an MTR train, I can see 90% of passengers, young and old, men and women, they are all using a handphone there. So I think the time is right, the technology is right. So he bring the values at the right time to the market. So I think this is what he make iPhone so much a success. So I don't know. It is the target to set the target is different. It's very difficult also, and I hope that no, I think people will appreciate that difficulty.
Thank you, Professor Lin. Gary asks, are there any famous entrepreneurs that you admire? And are they in any way practicing Confucian values in their business?
Well, I think there are some famous entrepreneurs. There's a lot of in my chart. I show entrepreneurs like Bill Gates or Hewlett Packard. I think those are very successful, but they have problems too. There's no perfect. They're not perfect, but they are very important, and they're very successful. I think Bill Gates. I should mention that he's one of the top, earners, wealthiest person in the world for many years. But he has dedicated a lot of his personal wealth to philanthropy. That is that he's repaying, he's trying to use the wealth to repay the society, and he was also always focused on, to set focus on certain diseases. So I think this like maybe like Confucius. If Confucius was making a lot of money himself, he will be able to, do the same thing because he has very much has the people in mind. And I think entrepreneurs like Bill Gates and his foundation, I think has been very important for the biomedical studies and the disease control of disease. Like the epic COVID-19. I think they're doing a lot of good work in that area. So I admire people like that. I admire people that entrepreneurs with good moral standards, with they're always standing on the high ground and always thinking that they need to help other people who are not so lucky with them, because their success is not just by themselves. Their success is by themselves, also by the support of the society. So they need to repay the society with that support. So I think that's the kind of entrepreneur I like to see. And that is the practicing Confucius value, you might say.
So to go back, if you're trying to find a partner, how do you find the right partner to grow a business?
Well, I think you want to find partners that you can complement each other. That you can, something that you cannot do, that he can do better or she can do better, or something that you can always you want to find partner that you can look up to, that he can provide additional resource. You don't want to find partners that always listen to you and say, okay, I'll do what you said. That kind of people. People that can challenge your idea and people that can bring in different skill sets. I think these are the kind of partners that I want.
See, Kitty asks, you studied in Hong Kong and the United States before you started in DuPont. What made you study abroad? And share how you got used to studying in foreign countries, and also how you overcame cultural barriers.
Well, when I studied in Hong Kong and in Taiwan, and I went to the United States for graduate study, because at that time Taiwan is a very underdeveloped country, and I do not have the opportunity to get postgraduate studies, really. So I'm very lucky that I was able to go to the States and study at Illinois and then later on Columbia. I have and up to graduate, I also get opportunity to work in big companies. So the university and the companies give me a lot of training. Actually, I don't do very much with what I learned in the laboratory in doing my research. What I learned is the way to look at people, the way to look at the world, the way to look at the society and the needs and the different cultures. I think and how to work with people. This is what I learned, which is very, very useful, very valuable to me. And I think the cultural barrier is tremendous when I first go to the United States. But I think we learn to. I always try to be friend with Americans, with foreigners. I think some of my classmates, they are classmates of mine who study in the United States, or classmate or somebody I know that end up learning Sichuanhua or Shanghai because they always stay with the Chinese folks, the Chinese friends. It's easier. But that way, they do not have the opportunity to learn from people of other culture. So if any students in the audience, when you are trying to go to abroad, I would recommend you to try very hard to get blending to the local society as much as possible. And I think this is the way, a great opportunity to learn foreign language, to learn foreign cultures much more they will be as important as the subject that the technical subject you'll be doing. So I think this is what and that will help you to overcome barriers. Thank you.
So Edmund asks about attributes and attitudes, especially in learning, and what do you think as students they should possess in order to succeed in society and life?
Well, I think if you take Confucius as an example, I think it's trying to I take Lao Tzu as example that I talked about last time, but Confucius today, his passion for people and his respect for individual differences, his respect for trust, and try to cultivate trust with friends. I think these are very important attributes, not only in the entrepreneurialism, but also in business and also being a good person. So I don't want students to be a good entrepreneur and not a good person. You have to be a good person first, and to do a good person, you have to learn soft power attributes, such as building trust, such as respecting people, such as have the resolve to do things and try to strive for excellence, and do things, methodically, in systematically and with good method and good mindset. I think this is the kind of attributes that I like students to learn, and in that you'll become competitive, because today, if looking at what's competitive today and 30 years ago and 20 years ago and 40 years ago, they are all different. The things, the society changed so much. Today we're talking about very competitive here right now, like IoT or like AR, 5G. In 10 years, they may be different. There will be another set of requirements to be competitive. But the software attributes, those are very important, regardless of the what are the most fashionable technology that might be coming in at the time. So I think build on your mindset, build on your skill set. Those are the kind of things that I would do.
Thank you. So we're getting towards the end. Is there a hand? Does someone have a?
Okay. Yes, me too.
So I think we're right.
Thank you very much, Professor Otto Lin and Professor James Lee. Professor James Lee, please be invited to stay for the next session.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this talk informative and fascinating. To express our sincere appreciation to Professor Otto Lin, we would like to invite Professor Ben Yang, Vice President of Student and International Affairs, to present a souvenir to Professor Otto Lin. Professor Yang, please.
Okay.
Please smile.
Thank you. Okay. Then thank you very much.
I'm happy to do this.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Once again, thank you very much for spending time with us today. We look forward to welcoming you again at our upcoming talks. Lastly, please be reminded to scan this QR code and complete the online evaluation form. Goodbye.
Okay, so I can leave now, right? Or not?
Finish meeting.